Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and 12 years in, and it's just this myriad and collective web of a milieu of musicians that came up during a time where there was no template, there were no books about how to play certain things, there wasn't even a formula in the studio about how to make a record, and as a result, my guests grew up completely liberated on the drum kit, and wound up in the South Bay and then in the Bay Area with a whole bunch of people that I've interviewed on my program, extending the vocabulary of modern American music. A lot of the cats he played with would be known as skiffle players or folk musicians in the sense that they kind of just picked up the instruments and learned them on their own. And he's also played with many accomplished cats, including my dear brother Roberto Miranda, great jazzers who, are now trying to figure out in the academy how to teach students to develop their own individual sound in a day and age when there just aren't that many gigs in order to feel comfortable to express who you really are. Carl Tassi, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi, thank you.
It's an honor to have you, man. I really want you to talk to younger cats about how invigorating it was to really just be an auditory learner on the drums. I mean, there was no curriculums outside of, I'm not even sure if North Texas and Berkeley had jazz programs when you first started getting on the kit, but there was no codifying of the language of jazz. And I wanted you to talk about how that led to liberation for you on the drum kit.
That's a really great question. Very astute question, as a matter of fact. A lot of the school was hanging out with the guys. Mm-hmm. Going to New York and just hanging out at the clubs and meeting the players and stuff like that. That's how you would really get into their stuff. But I found that like 30 years later. I found that out. So
no, but I know. San Jose had Commander Cody talked about more of like sort of a swing, Western swing jazz vibe, but I know there were some seriously greasy jazz clubs there. Were you checking those places out back when you were a kid?
Different little, I can't even think of the names of the places, but there used to be little hangouts and stuff. But by the time that was happening, I was in college. Right. And my parents were from San Jose. So I would go down there and go to different clubs. Not a whole lot was going on, to be honest with you. But San Francisco had a whole other thing going on.
Totally.
When I was in college, one of my college buddies was John Handy III, that played with Charlie Mingus and Carnegie Hall on the Winterland album.
Well, wait, let's just stop right there. I mean, I've been at his beautiful home in Alameda. Thank you, Roger Glenn. John Handy, one of the most legendary cats. I will say there was a place, I'm not sure if it was around when you were a kid, but it was called, in San Jose, called Popeyes. And it was like these venerable cats like John Turk, Clifford Coulter, Ronnie Beck. This is a little bit after, but I know most of those cats would get in the car after a 2 a.m. gig and drive up to Jack's on Sutter in San Francisco and play the late nights at the dawn sessions. And, I guess going back to just sort of the rudiments of the kit, when you go back, I mean, I don't care if it's Papa Joe, Philly Joe, Art Blakey, Tootie Heath, Pete LaRocca, Mickey Roker, every one of those cats had their own individual sound. And I kind of wanted you to talk about how you developed your own sound on the kit.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. I was at a clinic with Elvin Jones.
Oh dear.
Conducting it. Somebody said, "How do you create your own individual sound?" And he goes, "Aren't you an individual?"
Making it sound so easy, dude.
And what you do is, it's kind of like no matter what you do, you develop your own thing. But what most of the guys do is they transcribe what other people have done, and they keep going over the concept, getting a history of where it was, where it's come to, and then you kind of take it where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And so, Alvin basically kind of hit it in a nutshell. all you have to do is keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. It's almost like saying, how do I develop my speaking voice? Well, you can take vocal lessons and it can open up things, but you have your own voice. And when I was studying with Judy Davis on vocal, she said some people's voices are only suited for certain kinds of singing.
Right.
And, some people they don't have a rock style voice. They're suited for jazz, or they're suited for R&B. Some people have a little extra and they can cover 2 or 3 genres. Some people are really gifted, and for whatever reason, their voice is sitting in a pocket where they can do all of it.
Absolutely.
You see? So you kind of have to figure out how tall you are, and that you can only fit in certain suits.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I dig. I mean, I feel like part of the magic of your generation is that, today we're inundated with so much visual material and so much of it is so mediocre. You guys were just, your ears were huge.
My experience in LA has been an incredible one. I can take you there.
Well, what I really wanted, I want you to talk about.
The moment.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking that you could talk about, ultimately, if because is it fair to say that you came up a jazz fanatic?
Yeah, it actually kind of started there. I mean, a little bit of rock and roll, that kind of thing was just coming in vogue, and. But in high school, I wound up playing with, and you've heard of Tom Harrell. Have you heard of Tom Harrell?
I mean, I've seen him live. He's not been on the program. Absolute stone, brilliant genius, dude.
Yeah, well, I played with him in high school.
How did that happen?
It was interesting. There was a guy named Cliff Patterson that played piano. We were in the same class, together. And he goes, there's this guy, he's like, just getting out of grammar school. And his name is Tom. And he's playing at a little festival at Holy Cross or something like that. This is like in Mountain View, California. So for some reason, I went there. I think I went with my dad or something like that. So we drive in this parking lot. We park the car and we're walking and we hear a band. And they're playing The Saints Go Marching In. And there's this guy soloing and just tearing it up.
Oh, man.
And it's Tom. It's like...
What year is this? What year was this?
Oh, God, that had to be like...
maybe like 62 or 63?
No. No, I started college in 61, so it had to be like 57.
Are you kidding? Wait, hold on. You were at San Francisco State in 61?
I graduated from high school in 61.
Oh,
and then I started
my dear God.
In 61, yeah.
All right, so let's just, this is so important because a lot of the cats, I've interviewed so many guys who wound up coming to the Bay Area, maybe studied with Bill Matthew. I'm curious about what it was. Did you go to San Francisco State for music? Can you talk about how
yeah,
and ultimately how much creative freedom you had? Because I don't even know if Berkeley was even up at that point.
Well, now we're going to step 2 now, from my, high school days, meeting Tom Harrell, gigging with Tom Harrell, with the Cliff Patterson trio. This guy, Scott Gentry, I think, was playing bass at the time. We're all kids,
This is filthy stuff, dude.
And then I went off to college, and every now and then I'd hear about Tom on the radio, some radio show like, what are you doing now? And he's doing this and that. And this is before I knew him. He didn't have a mental problem back then. I knew him before that.
Wow.
Unfortunately,
wow.
Yeah, years later, I saw him in L.A. 30 years later, and I went to the Catalina Bar and Grill to see him, and I had a note, and I handed it to Peter Donald, who was the head drum instructor at the Grove School of Music, and he was playing with Tom on that gig. And anyway, this is weird because it was interesting. I found I parked my car, and I had to park about a block away. It was, it's just hard to park in
Sure.
LA.
Oh, yeah, it still is, yeah.
And so I'm walking, I'm getting toward the club, and I hear this trumpet. And it just hit me about when I was walking through that parking lot at Holy Cross going to this festival and hearing Tom playing at a distance. And now I'm walking up the street in LA 30 years later, and Tom's playing in this club, and I can hear him down the street.
Oh, my, that is so, you flashed so hard back to that day at Holy Cross. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and like 30 years. So anyway, I'm standing outside because they're doing the show, and they finish the show, and they open up the room, and I go inside, and the band went into the green room, or whatever you want to call it, and Peter came out, and I saw Peter and flagged him over, and I said, my name is Carl Tassi. I played with Tom like 30 years ago in high school. Wow. Can you give him this note? Because I'd like to see him. So Peter went back and came back out and flagged me in, and I had about a half-hour talk with Tom in his dressing room, and he was explaining about his psychological difficulties. He was on Thorazine and stuff like that, which was interesting. He was able to carry on a conversation, but it was very slow because he was so heavily sedated.
Oh, man.
And it was kind of heartbreaking. But what's interesting, and let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
The note itself said, Tom, I haven't seen you in 30 years. I'm Carl Tassi, and we used to play with Cliff Passon Trio. I'd love to see you tonight.
That's great.
And anyway, so I got in there, and we're talking, and he remembered everything. He remembered Scott. He remembered Cliff. He remembered everything.
Oh, my. I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these cats,
right.
The savants have these, memories
right.
that you can,
So anyway, we talked at length about some stuff, and you know what he told me? This guy's on Thorazine. He's had issues. And we're talking away, and you know what he said, man? He goes, I've been lucky all my life, is what he said.
Well, I think that, listen, I mean, you can have, is it Tourette's or schizophrenia? I'm not sure exactly what he's diagnosed with, but it's like, you can, wear that and be saddled by it, or you can be, gratitude is the attitude. And when you look at, the things that he's accomplished professionally, I don't know if he has kids or a family, but the point is, it's all positive attitude. That guy was in Azteca. That guy could play a most amazing bop music. So yeah, it's only once only the person who's going through it really knows. And to me, that's just, I've always tried to keep that. Granted, right. I've always tried to keep that gratitude inside of me, even at 45, just to be able to hang with Carl Tassi this Sunday. It's actually somewhat monumental, and I'm grateful for it, even though I'm still, Steve Smith, won't give me the time of day, and I'm still looking for Herbie Hancock, but it doesn't matter. You have to look towards the light, and it's for so many of the guys
right.
that played jazz and were able to actually make a career playing the music they loved. I would be grateful too.
Yeah, no, it was interesting, and the bottom line was he was the same beautiful cat that I knew 30 years ago. It was just in a different format. Then when I went out to see him play, the drummer walked him out, and his arms were just hanging to the side, and he had the horn hanging in his hand.
Wow!
And he got up on the bandstand. I'm like, oh my God, He counted off this tune, man. He put that horn to his lips, and you would not know. You would not know the guy that I talked to in the dressing room was standing on that stage playing. And he did his soloing thing, did the solos, And then when the guys took over, his horns just dropped to his side. And his head was hanging forward. And obviously he was listening to everything. And then when it was time for him to come in, he just stood upright, put his horn to his lips, and bam! It's just amazing transition. And I don't know if you know this, but he said that he has people in his head talking all the time.
Oh, man.
But when he plays, they disappear.
So that's the one place of peace is on the bandstand, you know?
He's playing his horn. He said it stops. It all goes away.
There's a couple. I mean, that's a very powerful story. This is really important. Did you? I listened back to Claire Fisher with Gary Peacock and Gene Stone on Pacific Jazz, and then on the East Coast, of course, you had the incredible Village Vanguard concert with Bill, Scotty LaFaro, and Paul Motion. And I'm just figuring, I have to believe that because that was the early 60s, this conversational trio where you had these bass players who all of a sudden, really coming to the forefront of the conversation. They weren't just keeping time. And the drummers were part of the melodic conversation. Did you have a chance to see cats like Motion and some of these guys who were just dancing on the cymbals? To me, it was the most... I could listen to that tape, that Village Vanguard tape. I mean, it sounds different every time.
I mean, I knew John Ray.
Johnny Ray, dude. Cal J... Dude, Drum City?
Yeah.
Drum Shop?
Right. Yeah, I was not a close friend, but we were well acquainted because he used to come in town at San Francisco when I was living there, and he'd work at Kenny Williams Drumland. And
Drumland, that's
he used
what
to call me Mr. Tosey all the time. Hey, Mr. Tosey.
Oh, I love it.
Hi, John. But anyway, I don't know if you know this, but he was a vibe player.
Yeah, well, no, I've seen, because I've seen him with, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that because I've seen him play, drums with Jader, but it doesn't surprise me. All those guys could play all that percussion. Right,
but to be honest, some people say that he was a better player than Cal.
All this whole thing about who's better, and Johnny Ray is a legendary rhythmist. Was Joe Morello around at that time?
I did meet Joe in Drumland one time. He was giving a lesson to one of the heavy duty guys up there. What was his name? Can't think of.
Can you talk about a lesson you got from Johnny Ray? I mean, these guys, Joe Morello would not.
I never took a lesson from Johnny. But let me get to another point
for
younger guys.
Yeah.
When I grew up, there was really couldn't go and take jazz. So I wind up in college, and it's all symphonic stuff, of which was not really what I wanted to do.
Right.
So my major was major class percussion, which was timpani, xylophone, and snare drum. And those were the precursors to anything else you do. Piate, meaning the double cymbal thing, which is a whole other planet. Learn how to play them well. They look basic, but they're not, because I studied those also. But what I did was, I'm not sure. Well, when I moved to LA, let me jump forward. I studied with Freddie Gruber and learned that
the finger bounce technique. Gruber.
One grip in 4 different ways. It's the same grip turned over, kind of like flying an airplane. And when you bank it to the right, the wings stay in the same spot.
Right.
They move with the plane.
Right.
Okay. So, timpani, you've got your French grip and your German grip is what they taught us. What I did was I learned from watching other guys that, when they're playing on the cymbals, they're using French grip. See, I had a place to start from. Something to call out, like, what are you doing when you go to the cymbal? I didn't have to ask them.
Oh.
I could see them go with the thumb on top of the stick, and I'm going, you just turn your hand this way, and now I'm on the cymbal, and when I go to the snare drum, I'm in German grip with the right hand, because I'm right-handed. And then I had traditional going on with the left hand. So years and years later, I moved to LA, and I had an illness, and I was getting over that, and I hadn't played in a while. So I called around town and talked to some guys at some schools about what to do, because I didn't want to go to school. I just want to find a guy to check me out, because I hadn't been playing in a couple of years. So I wound up calling Grove, and this is where Peter Donald pops in, because they said, call this guy. He's the head drum instructor here. So I called Peter, and I guess it was at his home, and I told him about, I've been ill, and I want to get somebody to check me out. And I thought, well, okay, Peter Donald, head drum instructor, that'd be fine. So he goes, hold on, and he comes back and he goes, take this number down. This guy's Freddie Gruber.
Wow.
And I was like,
what year? What year was this?
This had to be more like 1990-ish.
Freddie was still alive at that. That's amazing. I didn't know he was still around, because that dude was...
No, he passed away in 2011.
He was a shaman cat for guys like Gene Stone, who were playing that conversational trio music.
Yeah, well, he was Gene Stone. He told me to go watch Gene Stone. He goes, "Hey,
this is so beautiful. This is so spiritual, man. Jesus, my God."
Yeah. So I knew Gene.
Oh my! I cannot believe, because in
fact, when I was just singing, I had Gene play on some of my gigs.
Dude, this is making my day, because, Gene, I haven't thought about Gene. We did an amazing interview that I'll send you. He talked about the finger bounce method, Freddie Gruber, that's what he called it. And,
right. But he studied with Freddie a long time
ago.
my,
I cannot believe that it's coming full circle here 30 years later. But when you were, so I just know there were cats, please tell me that you were going to see Thelonious, Dizzy. Those, to me, like, jazz was... I remember some of the Merry Pranksters, Ken Kesey and those guys, they would take Mingus back to their house in La Honda and eat acid together. It was like 63. But jazz was like full-on dance music at that time. Small ensembles. It was a little bit modal. But I really want, when you were done with in the academy, whatever that meant, in 61, where were you were you going to Bop City? Were you going into the Fillmore District? Where were you going?
Well, I used to go to the Jazz Workshop and the Both Ands.
Oh my God! That was
that.
Right. But
and the big one for me was the Black Hawk. I saw Miles at the Black Hawk. I saw Dizzy at the Black Hawk a few times. In fact, I don't know if you even know this.
No, I don't.
Black Hawk had two entrances.
Oh, boy.
It was a front entrance for the people who could stay in the main room, and then they had a back entrance where it was blocked off with like a chicken wire type thing for people underage.
Sure, peanut gallery.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So it was a way to segregate them so they couldn't be in the alcohol area. And I used to go there before I was able to get in the front door. And I saw Ahmad Jamal there. And who else?
Can you talk about, that is, oh my God. You saw all the original masters. And what was the essence that you took away from them, especially, like, I don't know who was playing, maybe Tony was playing drums with Miles. To me, like, everything was so amazing. They were, the PA systems were not state of the art. In jazz clubs, it probably sounded pretty good, but the dynamics of the rhythm section was just scintillating. To me, that's the most beautiful thing about post-bop, cool jazz, whatever you want to label it. I just wonder if you could... go ahead.
One thing about jazz musicians is they have the realization that everybody on the bandstand plays time.
You nailed it, dude. You nailed it.
There's no timekeeper.
Dude, I can't believe, this is the Sun Ra ethos. Everybody needs to have their own inner time feel. You nailed it, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want you to talk to young...
keeps time.
So talk about how that allows the rhythm section to be freed up to play melodically, because a lot of people think that, the drummer's got to be the timekeeper. No, everybody's got to have their own time feel, and that allows the rhythm section to play melodically.
Well, yeah, and it keeps everybody from crashing into each other. It's sort of like what Freddie would say: if you got a bunch of guys rowing the boat, they got to be in time.
Oh my God, that is sick. Yeah, right.
You know?
It's it's all sort of like a flock of geese. They make a left turn, they all go together. But that also
exactly.
You know that.
You're right. Now, if you're depending on somebody counting or a metronome, here's a thing for younger guys. Most guys practice to a metronome. They never practice with it.
What does that mean?
The distinction is when you practice to it, it clicks and you play along. You know, you hear it and you go, it click. But when you're playing with it, you are part of it. It's clicking the time, and you play with that time.
Right.
You don't play to it.
Absolutely, you're not relying on it to keep that. You are the time with it. Absolutely.
Right, and the other thing too is once you get your ride cymbal pattern down for the jazz thing, and you can make the metronome swing, that's when you got it. If you can hear the metronome not going tick, 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 and all of a sudden you're playing and the metronome sounds like it's the other guy, some other percussionist going tick, tick, you know, just it lays in there, that's it. That's when you know you've nailed it.
Talking to Carl Tassi here.
I remember one time I was woodshedding, and I had this, I was on a remote practice kit, and I saw my metronome wound down, and I was playing, and I looked at it, and the arm was swinging back and forth, and I stopped, and I could hear tick, tick, tick. I was dead on.
Would you say that, I mean, I think one of the things that's fascinating from all the cats, I don't care if it was Ernie Watts or Gene Perla or Jan Hammer, I mean, all of them, when they were at Berkeley, they were playing in Herb Pomeroy's big band, or they were playing in cruise ships that were going around the Boston Harbor. Can you talk about some of the earliest gigs you played when you got to San Francisco State and like what they were about? I mean, because Mills College was thriving. There was Subotnick was out there. There was a lot of beauty.
Yeah, it's just I was like, you know, I'm from San Jose, so I had a lot of little band things that I was doing in different, bars and this and that. Just going to school and playing gigs, driving home at 2 a.m. to get up to go to an 8 o'clock class, that kind of stuff. So one of the things I do remember was listening to K-Jazz that was in Alameda at the time, while I'm driving home, after a gig. So, I
want to be clear. You were living in the Bay Area. You weren't commuting back to San Jose.
Well, that's another story too.
Well, no, I'm like, can you talk about some of those early gigs you had? Were you playing original tunes and ultimately like the kind? I mean, because really, I mean, even I'm going to throw a name out there.
I didn't get into original stuff until I got out of college. I dropped out of. I was getting a master's degree in creative arts from. I got a degree in music, and then I was. I changed over to creative arts, which was interdisciplinary studies. So I picked 4 subject matters and blended them together, and I did that for about a year. And then I heard about some band being formed from these people from Nevada. And at the time, it was, it's not the famous band Oasis, but they called themselves Oasis because they had 7 band members. And they had a management thing going on in San Francisco for some reason. And so anyway, I wound up joining that band, and I dropped out of grad school, and we were going for a record deal and all that kind of stuff. And then that blew up.
Dude, I listened to a couple of tracks of Oasis. It is I'm so psyched to get hip to that. It is burning. It's definitely not,
I'm sorry. Did I say Oasis? It was the band I'm talking about was called Orion.
Okay, so let's
later,
break this down. Orion.
And then later, I wound up, man, the time sequences are all over. I came down to LA to check out the scene, and there was some audition thing coming up, and I didn't have my drum set. So I went back to San Francisco, and then I drove over to Sausalito, and I went to this place called the Sausalito Food Company to have lunch or something like that, which was close to this little family-like school of music that I used to teach out of.
Wow.
It was like just a little walk away, not even a block.
Wow.
But I was in there, and some lady singer, I remember that, I can't think of her name right now. I saw her, and, hey, how you doing? And she goes, oh, yeah, what are you doing? I said, well, I just came up to get my drum set, and got this thing in L.A., and I said, you know anybody else looking for a drummer? And she goes, yeah, David LaFlame. I was like, really? So I called David, and we got together at Mitchell Holman, the bass player from It's a Beautiful Day, was playing with David, as he had his own little band at the time. And we went into the basement, and we played together. And it seemed to go okay, So anyway, the next day I packed up and I left. I came down to L.A., and then I was here for like a week. And I called him up for some reason. And he's like, oh, hi, Carl, And I said, I've been thinking about you guys. And he goes, well, we've been thinking about you too. And I said, well, what, you want to get together again? I'll drive up. And he goes, oh, you're in L.A. and you're getting settled down there and this and that kind of thing. So I said, let me come up. Let's just do it one more time, see if it works. So I go up there. And we go into the basement, the rehearsal basement at Mitchell's house, and we start playing. And David says, okay, come on, let's get this together now. We got to do this. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, we got a gig in 7 days.
What? Oh, my.
Yeah.
Wait, so you were talking, this was, go ahead.
We were opening for the Sons of Champlin.
It's so great because I just found a record with Frank Haggerty. Did you know Frank? Terry's dad?
No.
Frank Haggerty played with Kid Ory in San Francisco. I mean, Frank Haggerty was the man, and the Sons of Champlin were by far the most sophisticated band to come out of the Bay Area. By far. Nothing was even close. That is unbelievable. Now, I just want to be...
What's even more unbelievable, I'm in a chat room on some music chat room in L.A. years later, and I wound up talking to one of the horn players that was in the band.
Wow. Yeah, no, I was going to ask you about, okay, so I just want to be clear, before LaFlame got you back in the basement, what about this band called The Free Thing?
What do you pick up on The Free Thing?
Dude, you told me, I read your bio, bub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't looked at it in years. The Free Thing was a thing I developed in college for some practicum courses with video and music. And but that was kind of prior to that. It was a free improvisatory jazz group. And what we did was we used to jam together in this practice room. And then we got into why don't we create an introduction and make it a little bit freer? And then we would do this introduction, improvise an introduction, and then we go into the song. Right?
Wow. This is so in my wheelhouse right here.
The introduction started getting longer until finally some guys are improvising in a counter key to the song we would pick out to do. And sometimes we wouldn't even get to the other song, but something else would pop out. And on top of all that, it wasn't about choruses. The choruses would be going along, but they could be stretched or shrunk.
Oh, I love this.
Or somebody might take over the lead in the middle of an 8-bar phrase. I mean, it was
So,
really,
so I want to be clear about this. First of all, who are the cats in the band?
Whoa. I don't even remember.
Well, I want to be clear because I'm going to throw out a few names here because there were cats in a group called, ironically enough, called LSD, Light Sound Dimension. And it was Noel Jukes, Jerry Granelli, George Murabus, and they played on Fillmore, and they would just play behind a...
Oh, George Marabus.
Yes. Please talk. Dude, George Murabus is in my soul on this entire 12-year journey. Take it away with George Murabus.
Yeah, wasn't he... his wife, Gail Marabus, was married to Smith Dobson after they got divorced.
Oh, that I don't know, but George Murabus, I mean, the thing about Murabus is that people said that he could just be smiling at the audience for 15 minutes and they'd be just fine with that. He was such an entertaining cat. But those guys were behind a black curtain. They would be playing to the first sound they heard and just basically playing completely free with a lot of the early light shows, Bill Ham and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so were you...
Yeah, I was not part of that scene. I knew Jerry. Jerry Granelli's wife was a part of the administration at State College when I was there.
You know, Jerry, we lost him like last year. He was a dear supporter of my program and such an amazing drummer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, he studied heavily with Joe Morello.
Absolutely, and he played his ass off with Bolasete and Giraldi too. But did you this band, the free thing? Now, was this just a cutting room floor thing, or were you guys actually playing gigs?
No, we were just basically on campus doing stuff, and then we brought it into video projects. And I had a video class, and the teacher was saying, like, what do you want us to do? And I said, well, we're going to play free improvisation music, and you're going to video the band in a free improvisation format. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, look, and we had a flautist, right?
Yeah.
And I said, you see the cameras on the flute, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, don't video that. When the flute starts playing, you see the light coming off the flute? Video that.
Oh, dude, man.
And he was like, what? You know, this guy was a heavy-duty producer back in New York before he, what's his name? It was a German guy.
The point is that you used that multidisciplinary approach that you took as a student and blew his mind open because you wanted the light off the flute.
Right.
I don't even care who this guy. I don't care who this guy was. That you knew what you wanted.
Yeah, his first name was Herb, I think. And then I said, now what you're going to do is you're going to see the vibe player. We had a vibe, flute, bass, and drums. And this is coming back to me now, like 50 years later.
Good.
Our conversation is triggering it. And I said, you see the vibes, they have the little things spinning under the bars. Can you see that? And they're spinning, right? And I said, now take the light from the flute and superimpose it over the bars and then blend it in, and then you come up and show the vibe player. And he never thought of anything like that. You know, it was a little more commercial mindset for him. Herb Zettel. That was
Zettel.
Herb
Zettel. Is this stuff circulating anywhere? Did it ever actually come out, like in some sort of commercial or YouTube fashion, the video?
He had actually, no, it did not. But he had some famous composer, I'm trying to think of his name right now, come and see the result that we got.
Oh, my God. This is... we get a year on this, by the way? 65? What is this? What year?
Yeah, around there. It had to be around there, because I was there for 7 years, so around 68. Because I started post-grad work, and then I left in the middle of that to join this rock band. So
I just want to be clear that the rock band was Orinda that you joined. Is that what you?
No, Orion.
Orion. Now, just before we move on, did you know another incredible drummer was out there at that time? Played with, and Joe Henderson played with Van Morrison. His name was Steve Mitchell.
Yes.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, he went to the Music Institute.
He was playing in a band of, I mean, I would have been so psychedelicized if I was out there. I mean, the amount of he was playing improv music. You're telling me, though, you really couldn't sing for your supper doing this, even though you were dwelling in this incredible, I mean, it just sounds so scintillating. It wasn't like there weren't clubs or coffee houses. I'm not talking about the Both And or the Black Hawk, but there weren't places that you guys could really get this stuff out in a live setting.
No, it was more like an academic setting, and we were being creative as opposed to academic, if you know the distinction.
Oh, absolutely, dude. You had full creative control as a student, which is unheard of, which is so amazing.
Yeah. But the thing is, we had to make it happen that way.
Right.
It wasn't that they allowed us to do it that way. We were not allowed to play jazz in the practice rooms. It was not part of the academic curriculum. So what I did is I went to my composer's workshop instructor and said, I want to build an improvisatory jazz group for my composer's workshop class.
Wow.
So when we were busted, why are you playing this stuff in this room? I said, I'm sorry, it's part of our class. So
this is so insane. This is because at Howard University, Eddie Henderson, the great trumpet player, was playing Killer Joe. That was an all-black school, 64. Security guard came in. He goes, if I hear you playing that end music, I'm going to shoot you. Jazz was not Roberta Flack, and those cats went to Howard. There was no jazz program. They thought it was the devil's music. You're telling me San Francisco State, same thing. They didn't want you playing that music.
Well, yeah, but not for those reasons. The reason was that they were symphonically oriented, and they
oh my God, what snobbish people, man!
Well, somewhere, yeah.
I mean, but you're telling me that all those cats, what it comes down to is, were some of the professors, I know you were, but did they recognize the brilliance of Chet Baker, Bill Evans, and Vince Guaraldi? They just couldn't really improvise? I mean, why were they so anti-jazz? Jazz was flourishing at that time.
Well, they're not anti-jazz, but there was somebody who was like more curriculum-oriented. I don't want to mention the name, but he was the head of the instrumental department, and he was the big guy that would run around and try to crush this and crush that. But there are other professors that, like even Roland Koloff, he goes, I know what what you want to do. And he wasn't opposed to it. He just, Carl liked to play on drum sets. And so what I did is I did, going back to your first question when we opened the conversation, I took what I learned on snare drum, on timpani, and on xylophone, cross-sticking methods and stuff like that, and I applied it to the drum set. So this is going back to the young guys, like what's going on with you, right? How did you do this, okay?
Right.
So now that we hit this pedestal, let's move on to L.A., and I meet Freddie Gruber, and I go in to take up the first lesson with him. But before that, I had a phone call with him. We talked about Zen Buddhism for about a half an hour.
That's beautiful. God, that's beautiful.
And he goes, man, you got to come down. You got to meet the guys. You got to meet the guys. I was like, who the hell are the guys? So I didn't, because everything is kind of formal in life. So I go there, and these guys are like hanging. And he's giving a drum lesson to somebody in the drum room in his house, and he's got 4 or 5 guys in the living room waiting to take a lesson for like 3 or 4 hours. And, they come in from Vegas, and one guy comes in from San Diego, and I was basically like 5 miles away. I'm hanging out. So I'm meeting these guys, and they're all like players. I mean, real players, making money. seriously making and touring and stuff, and they're taking a lesson from Freddie. And because what are you learning, So I'm there at the house, and we're talking about it, and Freddie comes out, hey, okay, these are the guys, Ian Wallace from King Crimson,
Wow.
and so-and-so came in from Vegas. He's doing a show there. He's got to get back. Hey, man, do you mind if he takes a lesson first because he's got a long drive to go, Every lesson was an hour, but you might have to wait 2 hours, like going to the dentist in order to get in there. Then Steve Smith would walk by or come by, and then Clayton Cameron would come in, and then everything would stop, and he'd say, Clayton, you got to show these guys a little bit about your brush stuff, So then Clayton would go into the drum room, we'd all be around him, and he'd do all the stuff on the brushes about what he's been doing and the book he's writing and all this stuff. And then we get this other kind of lesson in the middle of the lessons, and it was like Drum City, always going on. So anyway, it came my turn, and I go in the drum room. I'm sitting there, and he goes, just play a simple beat, just a simple beat, like boom, boom, bat, boom, boom, bat, okay, bass drum, left hand snare, hi-hat. So I'm going boom, boom, bat, and he goes, hey, your hands look pretty good. I said, well, thanks, I didn't know, okay. And then he starts to go, okay, but your balance point on your stick is such that you have to work a little bit more to do it. If you put it here, it works better for you, and you're pushing the beater ball into the bass drum, and that's kind of choking your tone. And he gets into this stuff, and I left there at 4 a.m.
You took a 6-hour lesson, dude.
No, I was hanging out after my lesson, watching him give other lessons.
Jesus.
And I remember saying goodnight to Freddie. He was like behind a little screen door. He was like, I'm outside. I said, thank you. I'll be back next week. Yeah, okay, we'll see you. And I took a step to my car, and my hand went right to my forehead, and I went, everything I just witnessed is upside down and backwards from what everyone is teaching, and it makes the most sense.
I cannot believe what just, Carl, I just got informed that Ahmad Jamal passed away.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to send you that interview with him tonight because God bless Ahmad Jamal, man. I got to go back to the Bay Area for a minute. I'm not going to let you get away with it. I need you to talk about a few guys and how Orion fit into that and then ultimately, because you moved away from the sort of free jet. The guy I want you to talk about. There's a couple guys. I mean,
why?
Yorma.
Okay, yeah. I think I know where you want me to go.
No. I want to just Yorma and Garcia were folkies. I asked this to Cutler. I wanted you to talk about how aware you were of two guys, John Cipollina and Jerry Miller. They were arguably the first two rock guitar players in the Bay Area. I wanted you to talk a little bit about. You clearly weren't.
Well, I actually knew John Yeager, and he played in a couple of bands with me. In fact, he played with Oasis, who was with the Final Solution.
Dude, please talk about Yeager. He blew my mind when I was listening to these Oasis tracks. He is a fiery dude. I never heard of that cat.
Yeah, I don't know I lost contact. We were roommates at one point, and then he lived off the Panhandle at one point. I used to go see him over there. I get there at his pad, and all it was an empty room with a bed, a cup of coffee, and a percolator, and his guitar, and he had his books on his bed, and that's all he did all day was practice. That's it. It was, and I visited him while he was practicing. He just kept practicing and talking.
Like, what would you say? Like, was he was an early rocker too? But because he doesn't get any of the publicity that, let's say, like I'd mentioned before, like
Well,
Cipollina.
he wasn't famous, but he was with one of the first rock bands in San Francisco, The Final Solution.
Now, what was you just blew my mind there. You went to Never Everland. The Final Solution. Where did they come from? Who were they?
Well, I remember, I think the band leader, if there was one, was Carl Facilius.
Oh, dear. You are going deep in the bag right now.
And I knew John. I met John when he started playing with Orion. So the lineage is like John Yeager was with Orion, and we went through this whole process, and then things broke up and this and that. And then when we were going into the Oasis thing with Steve Barncard recording and producing it, and Joel Siegel was the leader of that band, and the singer was, well, we had a couple other singers prior to who we settled with.
Right.
And one of them was Valerie Carter.
No way.
Yeah, one of them was Valerie Carter, and she wound up going with, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you call it at the time, Richard Hovey, who was one of the singers, writers, and rhythms in the R.J. Fox band, which was pre-Oasis.
No, so I want to be clear. Was Oasis the first name, or R.J. Fox was the first name?
R.J. Fox, here's another one. Oh, man, I wish I had a timeline.
It's all, dude, listen, this is so this is so important, man, so just take your time. This is really important.
I answered some call to go talk to some guy about joining a band. So I'm going and I'm talking to this guy, and we're kind of hanging out. And somebody else rings the doorbell, and in walks this guy, Marty. I didn't know who Marty was, but they talked for a while. And then before Marty left, he goes, "Hey, man, if you want to be famous, these guys need a drummer." And he gave me, they live up on Jackson Street. And it was just up the street from where I was living on Washington Street in San Francisco. So I go to this place, and it turned out to be R.J. Fox. And they were being produced through the David Crosby people. And they were doing a thing for Atlantic, as far as I remember.
Yes.
And then some weird stuff came down regarding some legal things through the management of the Grateful Dead, I believe. And they got shelved because Atlantic got very upset about what was going on. And
I'm sorry. What? You have any idea what was going on?
I'd hate to give misinformation out.
Absolutely. No, I mean, but it was like was it like, because I mean, Wally Hiders was cranking at that time. Crosby was, I mean, were they just?
Well, that's what they recorded. I met them when they were doing their album, and they had Kreutzmann on drums and the other guy. They were both.
Phil Lesh?
No, that's bass. The drummer from the Airplane at the time was
Spencer Dryden. Yeah, absolutely.
So what they kind of did was a double thing where one of them would play the time and the other guy would do the fills.
Dude, you're making this is more. Wait, hold on. You walked in on this? This is you saw this, them shedding in Hiders, and they were doing.
Well, I was I I wasn't there all the time because I wasn't that much into the band at the time, but I knew this stuff was going on, and I heard tracks recorded, guitar tracks, not finished tracks, but just listen to this guitar sound. Look what Steve did with this guitar sound. I said, God, it sounds like he's standing inside the guitar.
Barncard at that time was, I mean, if I could only remember my name, there were no baffles in there.
Right.
There was, okay, so that was, so there was some kind of chicanery. Atlantic pulled the deal, and then you.
Yeah, it was. if I remember correctly, it's all, from 50 years ago. My recollection is that they had this deal going on, and they were supposed to just sign it and renegotiate. In other words, we want to move forward. We want you guys recording. Just sign the contract so you can do it, and we'll renegotiate.
Wow.
So when they went down there, somebody called, I think, L.A., and it turns out that the band wound up with the contracts. The record company did not. And I think it was through the debt management. And when they went to negotiate, as opposed to renegotiate, they said, "What do you mean? We're here to renegotiate the contract." And he said, "No, we're here to negotiate the contract because we have the contract."
Right. Oh, man.
They didn't.
Oh, man.
So Atlantic says, "You're trying to rip us off," or something to that effect, and they canned it. And it just shut it down. So that broke up. I guess it's got to be longer than that, right? But for our conversation, that was it. And so I wasn't in the band, right? Because there was no band.
Right.
So I'm doing a thing, going to LA, and then I went on the road with David. And that was about 9 months. And then I left that. And I was living on Washington Street, and who moves halfway up the street from me is Joel Siegel, band leader for RJ Fox.
Oh, my God. That is... So I just want to be clear. I'm looking here, retrospective dreams. I mean, it's funny. It says 71 to 77. So in basically 71, things fell apart. And then when did you get back? When did you get onto Washington Street? Like 73?
The album came out in 73, right?
71. RJ Fox, Retrospective Dreams, 71.
No. That's something else.
You're talking about Oasis? Oasis?
The Oasis thing was in 73.
That's right. That's exactly. So,
then I went. I was out with David.
Yeah.
See, Oasis was in 73. So, okay. So going forward, like around 71, I guess it is. Then Joel moves up the street. We start talking. We're running into each other on the street. And all of a sudden, they get this place in Mill Valley called the Houndstooth Inn, which was an old club / restaurant bar.
I have never heard of that place. That is so bad. Where was it? San Anselmo? Sausalito?
No, more like San Rafael.
San Rafael. Okay, yeah, okay. The Houndstooth, yeah.
And so not only was it this little back road to the Houndstooth, but right around up the way a little bit was the Grateful Dead's other studio. and Barncard comes in and he took over the kitchen. And he put in, multi-tracks and all this other stuff. And there was a little stage in the club. And we used to be on the stage to play, And then we kind of lived in it.
Oh, my. This is blowing my mind.
Yeah, John Yeager was living in a cooler. And one of our roadies was living in the little green room off to the side of the stage. Oh. And I was on a couch by the mailbox. And another guy was living... Where was George living? There's another little place that they had. There were like 4 or 5 of us living in this studio. And so we didn't have any, we just get up and play. But it was called the Houndstooth Inn. And I don't know, somebody had the money to rent it for us, so we just lived there. And then we would find there would be other people who would kind of sponsor. We find somebody that had money that liked the band or liked the idea, and somebody finally put together a package on condition to record at Wally Heider's, like $4,000 down, and if we got a deal, they get $40,000. something like that.
Right.
So anyway, John Yeager was with me, and we were living in the studio. And
wait, did Sherry Fox join up at that point?
Well, the thing was with Valerie and the boyfriend from R.J. Fox, they got involved in a band out of L.A. called Howdy Moon with another singer.
Wow.
And they were starting to move in another direction there. So Valerie was gone. And then I remember getting a phone call, and Steve and Joel invited me to go to this place near like Larkspur or something like that, where Sherry was living. And so we go, and we're talking to her, and we're talking about music and our careers and this and that. And she goes, I'm performing with these guys, and they don't even know what I'm doing. She was kind of depressed.
Right, right.
I do this, I write this song, and they look at it like, what? So we said, well, play one of the songs that you played them, So she played this thing, man, and we were like, what is going on there, Every Way of a Man. Did you heard that?
Yeah, sure.
So she's playing piano and singing on that thing, man, in the studio. But when Steve recorded it, he brought a Nagra, I think it was, and set it up and recorded all her little performances with us. And you can hear the birds in the background.
Oh my!
Chirping
this is unbelievable.
It's like kind of in the country, right back in there, and you can hear little birds chirping, and she's playing piano and singing. And then this is interesting about Barncard. I hate to shift it like this, but
go ahead.
He'll take any scenario and make it gold. I mean, I did some basic tracks with Joel and me, and I had a soul kit, a bass drum, a snare drum, a cymbal, and a hi-hat. And he had two mics, and Joel, and we laid down some tracks in his living room, and he transferred them to the big machines, and then we recorded over that on some of the stuff. And some of the stuff was live. And that brings me to another point. Now I said,
well, I just want to say, this is, so I just really, did that ever actually get pressed on? Did that record come out at the time, or did it only get released later?
No, it came out as a demo type thing in '73, like 500 copies or something like that.
Like a 45 or something, like not a full 33 1/3.
It was an album.
It was an album.
Cover. Yeah, yeah. You haven't seen the cover? The only thing that's available is something that was reissued, that was like a compilation of R.J. Fox. I've never seen that actual LP, like the original one. Of the Oasis one.
The Oasis, the Oasis, that, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll probably, when we get done with this, hopefully I'll remember. I can see if I can find a copy.
Dude, I'm going to be coming out to L.A. to do some video with you at that farmer's market, man. Are you kidding? I was just going to say, we've been cooking here for an hour, 5 minutes. We have a lot more to do. Can we do set 2 this week? Or maybe I can get back to you? Because I think that it's a good time to have an interview.
Let me leave you with this then.
Hit it.
I'm in the studio with Steven, and Grace Slick shows up, and he's talking to her, and he decides to show her this basic track, and so she sits in the gallery, and I'm sitting behind her, and we got the big L-Tex up. They had the big 4 L-Tex up in this. If you've been in hiders, and so anyway, he runs this track. I'm trying to think of the tune. It's kind of an up-tempo thing. We were kind of considering it might be the single, that kind of a thing. But anyway, so he runs the track, and it finishes. And she looks back at me and she goes, "Are you in the band?" You know? I said, "Yeah." What instrument? I said, "Well, I'm the drummer." And she goes, "Oh, you guys sound really good. Can you do it live?" And I said, "Gracie, that is live." And she said the airplane had never been able to do a live track. Everything was stacked. That's what she told me.
Yeah, well, Carl Tassi, Tassi, man, I got to be honest, I'm so grateful that Cutler connected us, man. I mean, you are a treasure trove of incredible history because you were on the scene. There was a cat, I'm just going to leave you with this, everyone thinks Sly Stone started funk in Oakland, but actually the guy that was cooking out there, and I just talked to him, he still lives in Berkeley, early 60s, the original godfather of funk, Johnny Talbot. Do you remember that name?
I do not.
Yeah, Johnny Talbot was playing in the Fillmore. James Brown and Marvin Gaye used to come and see him all the time. He was playing when Charles Sullivan was all black down there. And it was early 60s, and he was doing funk. He was the original father of God. He was the original funk master. I mean, just the idea that you were in that area pre Summer of Love, pre psychedelics, really just pre skiffle band. I mean, and then you were obviously having this aesthetic of blending all this multimedia and music and improv. I mean, you were right in the pocket of Jake Feinberg, even though I didn't come along till 78, man.
You keep saying skiffle, and I was like, I actually wound up playing with and knew Philo Hayward.
Dude, stop right. I cannot believe you just dropped that name. I cannot believe, because Billy Kreutzmann, Philo I think he built one of the first state-of-the-art studios. That dude was, rest in peace, Philo. He is with us today, man.
I was roommates with him in Sausalito. When I was living at the Houndstooth, he came up to me one day because he knew those people. The same people. He knew the same people. And he goes, "Look, man, you don't want to live here anymore." He goes, I'm getting a place with this friend of mine who's a tennis pro in Sausalito. And you wanna join us? So we found this. They've had this place. It was kind of a weird place, but then a couple of months later, they found a place in the Banana Belt, and it was, where the Valhalla is.
Sure, yeah.
And you go up in this canyon, and it whoops around, and you go up this weird road, and boom, there's a parking area, and right on the side of this hill or mountain were these two apartments. And we had the top one, and it overlooked the bay. And I would have my practice pad set there.
Oh my dude, this is out of a dream, man. This is Philo, man.
What's weird to me is when I was talking to Bill about this, what we're doing, I said, I don't really know what I can offer him.
Oh boy, I know, and you offer a lot.
I got nothing, and he goes, no man, you've been through a lot. You've done a lot of stuff now. I mean, look what you're doing. You're from drums to this and that. And here's another thing too, by the way. I've been in quite 2 or 3, maybe 4 bands with Bill.
Well, I want to spend a whole session on. I did not know we were going to cook for 70 minutes. I actually have to go to. I didn't
either, but I find you very.
Well, wait till I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you a few interviews from all your old buddies, like Steve Mitchell. I mean, I've been on the reason Cutler connected us is because, I mean, as a Gen Xer at 45, nobody's doing what I'm doing, and believe me, man, you are in my wheelhouse. So I'll call you this week, and we'll set up a time to do set 2. I want to talk about Heroes and Cutler.
What's interesting about Bill and myself is I've been in different bands with him where I've been actually kicked out of the band and replaced. But we have remained friends for all this time. When he came down to LA recording, we got together and we had lunch together. And there's the interesting relationship that we have. It didn't matter to me. He's kind of a neat guy. I'll put it that way.
Well, he's one of the coolest, brilliant people I've ever known. And anyway, man, yeah. I'll call you this week. I'll get you a copy of this later, and we'll do set 2 really soon.
Yeah, maybe the same time, same station type thing might work out best.
Yeah, I mean, you want like Sundays are good for you?
I think, yeah, like around 3:30, 4 o'clock or something.
All right,
that.
Yeah. All right, so let's. We'll do 3:30 a week from today.
Yeah, I mean, the way you're working the conversation is so incredible to me. You're kind of letting me do free form. When I get an idea, you let me go there.
And then the greatest thing is we always finish, we might leave the idea for a minute and then we'll come back and hit it again later. It's like a jazz set,
But yeah. I mean, but the bottom line, and what you said earlier about individual and recording, that's in my mind now, the way you set up the whole thing. In light of that, with the Freddie Gruber thing, this is for younger guys.
Yeah.
Freddie Gruber taught an approach, not technique, an approach of how you do what you do on the drum set to make it work, what flows in the time of the universe.
I want to stop right there. That's poetry in motion right there. That's freaking amazing, dude. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carl Tassi. We'll do it again.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I really, you have a great vibe. To be, it's not a typical interview vibe.
I knew. No, I mean, I always love people that are, not. I don't know if skeptical is the right word, but yeah, man. I'll send you some interviews and you'll see who I've been duking it out with. I found my voice, man. Like you said, you got to find your voice. It takes a while, but you need that experience on the bandstand. It's an honor, man, and we'll do it again.
Well, yes, I'm. I don't know what to say. I just it was very enjoyable talking to you.
Love you, man. I'll send you a copy of this later tonight or tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
All right. Be cool, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.